Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Time to bring some focus to your favorite and not so favorite geeky films. Cam here and welcome back to Cam in Focus. So with the recent 5-year anniversary of The Last Jedi, it kinda called to attention that it's been 7 years since the start of the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy. And to this day, some people still have a few questions about the story. And no, before I get any further, I will not be addressing any, this is bad, that is bad. 100% objectivity is impossible and it's not worth trying. What this video will be is an exploration of story elements not made completely clear in the films, and a rationalization of them using in-universe logic, as well as one of my favorite aspects of writing, character context. Without further ado, let's do it.
I don't want to watch that.
Oh, okay. Wait! That's too bad!
Number 1. Where did Maz Kanata get Luke's lightsaber?
A good question. For another time.
Number 2.
Whoa.
No, I'm not gonna do y'all like that. Well, the answer to that is that we don't have an in-depth explanation yet. I'm sure it'll be explored in the future, but as of right now, the best we can infer is that someone on Bespin found it in a junk heap, and it changed hands until it reached Maz Kanata. Let's not forget that she's a fairly prominent figure in the galaxy, not necessarily on the level of someone like Jabba the Hutt, but enough to where she knows how to acquire items of that kind of value when they emerge. Not to mention she made her fortune in collecting various antiquities as well. Number 2. Why was Finn a match for Kylo Ren? Well, he wasn't. Watch the fight. Kylo Ren was toying with him for almost the entire thing. He was so confident in his superiority that he even turned his back on Finn momentarily. I touched on this in my Finn vs Kylo Ren video, which I'll leave a link to below. But this fight is similar to Luke's duel with Vader on Bespin in the fact that for the first part of it, the villain is testing the waters and wearing the opponent down until they score a lucky hit and the villain decides that playtime is over. I won't deny that Finn is a decent combatant, being a stormtrooper trained since childhood, but if you watch, the few attacks that Finn attempts are effortlessly blocked. Whereas when Ren goes on the offensive, Finn is put on his heels and is forced to give ground. This isn't Finn being able to keep up with Kylo Ren, this is Kylo Ren playing with his food before he pounces. Number 3. Why did Rey beat Kylo Ren? So there's a few reasons for this. I'll start by saying that Rey is in her physical prime. She spent nearly her entire life doing everything she could to survive in Jakku's inhospitable conditions. Not to mention she learned how to brawl in order to defend herself from thugs, as is shown when Unkar Plutt's men tried to seize BB-8. We know that the Force can augment a person's physical ability, and it's been shown in canon that people who don't know how to actively wield it often use it without thinking. So in that sense, Rey has likely been using the Force without conscious thought in order to survive for nearly her whole life, to the point where it's such second nature that she doesn't even notice how much more capable she is than the average person. Secondly, Kylo Ren is far from a spring chicken at this point in the story. Not only was he emotionally compromised and unbalanced from killing Han Solo, which is addressed in The Last Jedi, but he also took a bowcaster bolt to the stomach and was actively bleeding out in the freezing cold, as well as being exhausted from all the fighting up until the point where the tables turned. For about the first 2/3 of the fight, Kylo Ren wasn't even trying to kill her. His objective was to bring her in. He was battering away at her defenses while Rey could only barely fend him off. It wasn't until she allowed herself to truly open up to the Force that she was given a second wind, so to speak, and was able to muster the strength to overpower him. Plus, she's already proficient with her staff, so some elements of her capability with the lightsaber was able to translate over. Not that that makes her any kind of master swordsman, but there is something there for her to build off of. Number 4. Why was Rey so good with the Force without training? Well, first of all, here's the thing. Before the Rise of Skywalker, Rey didn't do anything with the Force that was beyond basic level. She did a mind trick on a stormtrooper, a Force pull on a lightsaber, another Force pull, another Force pull, another Force pull, and levitation of rocks. If you recall back to A New Hope, when Obi-Wan was telling Luke about the Force on the Falcon,
remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Now remember that and take the idea one step further and go back to the Phantom Menace when Qui-Gon is telling Anakin about the midichlorians. Yes, I know the evil midichlorians, but they're canon, so get over it.
They continually speak to us, telling us the will of the Force.
What that right there tells me is that Rey didn't know how to do it, she just knew to do it. I'll go even further and reference Empire, when Luke failed in lifting the X-Wing, but then Yoda does it effortlessly.
I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
Luke and Rey had, at that part of their respective journeys, fundamentally different views on the Force. Luke saw it as a test of strength, whereas Rey saw it as a test of will, as shown when she whispers to herself,
Lifting Luke.
before she does it, showing us that in her mind it should be and is as simple as that. Plus, being the offspring of Palpatine helps a bit too. Number 5. Why did Captain Kennedy fire on the base first? So I've been thinking about that too, and this is my reasoning. He didn't know that they were nearly done evacuating. For all he knew, there were still plenty of ships and people down on the planet. Plus, and I admit this is kind of a stretch even for me, destroying the base was the first command given to him by General Hux.
Tell Captain Kennedy to prime his dreadnought, incinerate their base, destroy their transports, and obliterate their fleet.
Besides that, the plot needed to happen, and the filmmakers needed to demonstrate the power of the autocannons to the audience in order for us to see what kind of devastation a dreadnought could create. Number 6. Why didn't Admiral Holdo tell Poe about her plan? Well, here's the thing. Who was Poe to her? As far as she was concerned, he was just a hotshot pilot who got an entire bombing fleet killed needlessly attacking the dreadnought when they could have all just escaped. Plus, the First Order tracked them through lightspeed and the Resistance had no idea how. So for all she knew, there could have been a spy on board. She played it very close to the chest in order to maximize their chances of survival at the expense of her reputation. Just because Poe is important to his own story doesn't mean he was important to hers. Number 7. Why did Leia fly? Well, she didn't fly, she just force-pulled herself back to the ship. And yeah, I know people say that she was in space too long to have survived, but not only was she still within the shield of the ship, don't forget she's strong with the Force as well. More than likely, she unconsciously created some kind of Force bubble around herself in order to survive long enough to return. The scene was meant to demonstrate to us that Leia is powerful in her own way, and let's be honest, she wasn't exactly given many heroic scenes like that in the original trilogy. Number 8. How did Palpatine return? Well, this is explored in other canon materials, but I'll summarize it here. Yeah, I know a lot of people say that we shouldn't have to look at other stuff for the movies to make sense, but if you go back and watch the original trilogy and the prequels as well, they're absolutely guilty of that too. But anyway, when Palpatine was thrown into the reactor core of the Death Star, upon his death he transferred his soul to a clone body in the unknown regions on Exegol, where the Sith Eternal cult was waiting to act in the event of his death. The act of essence transfer has been a Sith ability for a long time, as shown to us in the Darth Bane trilogy and even as far back as the Dark Empire storyline. And the reason that his body was decaying in Rise of Skywalker was that cloning Force sensitives had always been a very difficult and unstable process. Not to mention his soul was so powerful that his body couldn't handle it. He initially wanted Ben Solo to act as an extension of his will until the time came for him to perform the essence transfer again, putting his soul into Ben Solo's body, though he obviously never got the chance. Number 9. Why did Luke Skywalker try to kill Ben Solo? Yeah, I'm sure you've seen all the memes that say Luke tried to kill him because Ben was having a bad dream, but that's so far from the truth that it makes those memes not even remotely funny. Luke had sensed a darkness rising in Ben, so while he was asleep, Luke took a look into his mind and saw his future. Now, I touched on this in my Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi videos, links below, but here's the gist. Luke struggled his entire life with the dark side. It wasn't as simple as turning away from it once and suddenly it's over. He felt its power and temptation, and he had to fight it every day. And what's the main catalyst for the dark side in the Skywalkers? The fear of loss. And what did Luke see in Ben's future? Loss. In that moment, the dark side nearly consumed him again, but in true Jedi fashion, he was able to turn away from it again, only too late this time. This wasn't Luke consciously wanting to kill Ben Solo, this was the dark side compelling him to kill Ben Solo. Because as we know, the corrupting influence of the dark side leads one to do terrible things, like, I don't know, slaughtering children, strangling your wife, just a couple of examples. Luke exiled himself and cut himself off from the Force not only as an act of his shame, but also in order to protect the galaxy from himself, because after that, he no longer trusted himself to be able to resist that temptation again, especially knowing what was to become of Ben Solo. Number 10. Why did Luke leave a map to his location if he didn't want to be found? Well, he didn't leave the map. And it wasn't a map specifically to his location, it was a star chart that showed the location of the first Jedi Temple, which was where most of Luke's friends hypothesized that he had gone. Lor San Tekka and Luke had both discovered the planet Ahch-To together, and San Tekka had owned that part of the galactic star map that revealed its location up until he gave it to Poe Dameron in The Force Awakens. The way it's phrased in The Force Awakens makes it sound like it's a map to Luke, but it's not. And number 11. What even was the First Order? Well, the First Order is a rogue military sect created from the remnants of the Empire that had fled into the unknown regions after their defeat at the Battle of Jakku. I kind of equate them to a militia force that imposes their will over everyone, similar to what we've seen in countries like Myanmar or Burma in the past. We don't have the details of their specific origins yet, but I can make something of an inference based on what we've seen and what we know is coming. I think it starts with Thrawn being catapulted into hyperspace by Ezra. Maybe he ends up in the unknown regions and is stranded. When the Empire flees after the Battle of Jakku, they end up in the same place. Maybe they work with Thrawn to create something new. Since we know that Ahsoka is looking for Thrawn in the Ahsoka series, maybe that'll give us hints to their creation. But as it is right now, we can only guess. Unfortunately, with many story threads in the sequel trilogy, until more dots get connected in the expanded universe, guessing is all we've got. However, with all the new material that's coming out lately setting up the sequel trilogy, I think we'll get those answers real soon. Well, that's that. Please note that the purpose of this video isn't to try and change people's opinions of the sequel trilogy. Rather, it's meant to demonstrate that for every question, there's an answer if you look beyond the superficial. I love the sequel trilogy. Well, most of it. And if I'm able to help deepen others' enjoyment of it, then I've done my job. This has been Cam in Focus of Geek News Now. Find us on all forms of social media, links for everything below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Geek News Now. Help us get to 2,000 subs. Have a wonderful day, everyone.